Hello, everyone. This is Dorie Clark, and I am here with Newsweek's weekly interview show, Better. This week, we're talking to my friend John Jantsch. John is the author of the new book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. So exciting. And we are going to be talking about strategies to consistently grow your business, especially during these crazy pandemic slash possibly potentially post-pandemic times. John Jantsch, great to have you.
Hey, Dory, always great to see you. But thanks for having me, of course.
Absolutely. And welcome to everyone who's tuning in. Please feel free to type your name and where you're calling in from into the chat box, because we want to say hi, we want to hear from you, and we want to take your questions about growing your business from John Jantsch. So please feel free to type them in at any point. So John, the first question that I have for you, we were just talking about this before we went on air. Obviously, the pandemic has been an incredibly stressful time for people trying to grow and trying to market a business. And for some people, that meant supply chain disruptions. For some people, it meant their business was entirely shut down. For other people, it meant that their business was overwhelmed because of sudden and bizarre desire for their products, whether you were selling toilet paper or Purell. But one way or another, people were pretty miserable. What do you see amongst the small business owners and entrepreneurs that you work with right now? What's the pulse as people are trying to successfully grow their business 18 months into this situation?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously learned a lot. March 2020, we were very much in like, what do we do now? New ground. And so I think there was a lot of energy actually around that. Obviously, there was some death and disease and painful things going on. But I think in a business world, entrepreneurs in some cases are actually at their best when they're challenged, when they're pushed a little bit. And so we saw a lot of energy, I think, around that idea of what do we need to do? How do we make this work? But as you said, 18 months in, actually now it's just kind of a grind. And I think that we learned a lot. Some innovations are here to stay that I think people rightly adopted and now realize, hey, our industry can do this. This might be a better experience actually for customers. But I will tell you the one thing that I saw throughout this, and it really, I signed the contract to write this book March 15th, 2020. So, I was kind of thinking, okay, now what am I going to write about? Certainly nobody wants to read how to market in a time of, pandemic. But I saw from a lot of my customers that, as you mentioned, some people got wiped out from being at the wrong place, the wrong time. But that's actually how a lot of businesses thrive, is being at the right place at the right time. And what I saw though was that in tough times, a lot of times businesses survive or thrive by being meaningful in the lives of their customers. And I have one example that I share in the book, a story that a client of mine sent out an email, and I was on the chain, basically telling his 50 employees, don't come into work, telling all of his projects, we're not going to be on the job site on Monday. And just seeing the response that was so positive. They were flooded with people saying, hey, you're doing the right thing. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We had one person even say, can I pay you ahead of time now? Because I want you to be here. I want you to survive. And, that's always been true, but man, how did we get away from that? And so a great deal of this book is really about, how can we actually start focusing more on less on transactions, I should say, and more on the transformations that our customers want to achieve. And I think that's from a marketing strategy standpoint, crack that nut. And I think you're on the right path.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation, John. Thank you for that. And I just want to say hello to some of the great folks who are tuning in. Thank you for being here. We have Karen from Boston. I'm actually in Boston today as well. We have Elen who's here. We have Abdullah joining us from Pakistan. We have Jorge and Howard and many more. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're here with John Jantsch. He is the author of the new book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. And I see a question actually came in already from Howard, John, which I think probably a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs can relate to. Howard says, I'm seeing more clients who are expressing a strong interest in hiring us. They do HR consulting, but then they're not coming back with a green light to move forward. What is it? Is something spooking the buyers right now? What are your thoughts on diagnosing this problem and maybe beginning to address it?
Yeah, a great deal of this book, probably a sub-theme of this book, is how I think we have to, right now's the time, we have to rethink the entire customer journey, buyer journey. And I think that what you might be experiencing, Howard, is nobody really knows how to do anything anymore. I mean, all of our normal routines have been broken. And in some ways, that's created opportunity, of course, because we're not as resistant to change. We had to change. And a lot of times, as we know, somebody making a decision, it's like, I got to change some things. I'm not going to. So I think now is a great time to innovate. But I would suggest that there may be a piece missing in kind of your customer journey, how people come to obviously know about you, but then the level of trust it's going to get them. I mean, what I tell people all the time right now is the best source of this information, best source of fixing this customer journey is asking the people that are on it. Where did we let you down? Why? I mean, you may have somebody that decided to not buy, Howard. Find out why. I think people love to be asked those kinds of things. It may feel uncomfortable as the business to inquire, such a thing from a prospect that you're hoping maybe comes later and becomes a customer. But I think you're going to find that people actually find that more authentic and open, that you are not only discovering what it is that's not getting the response that you want, but that you're actually involving the people that are on a customer journey in their own journey. So that to me is kind of the first place I would look.
Yeah, really helpful, John. Thank you. We are here again with John Jantsch. He's the author of the book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. If you want to learn more about John's book, you can check it out at theultimatemarketingengine.com. And if you want to make sure you never miss one of our weekly conversations here for Newsweek, just go to dorieclark.com/LI. You can follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to my weekly newsletter on LinkedIn and get updates and reminders about our fantastic guests, including our guest next week, Jen Lim, the author of Beyond Happiness. Now, John, as we're thinking about how to consistently grow our business, one of the starting points that a lot of people struggle with, especially early in their business, is identifying who their ideal customer is. This can be really challenging. I'm wondering if you have thoughts to share about how we can go about doing that, and also how we can maybe actually think about who we should not be worrying about.
So there are probably different answers depending upon the stage you are in your business. I mean, there are a lot of businesses that we work with that have grown to a certain level and kind of hit a plateau. And part of that is because they are serving anyone that seems to have a need for what it is that they do. Now, as businesses are getting started, and in a lot of cases, they're making assumptions about who is an ideal client, let alone who is a client, period. And so, early on, I tell people, you've just got to pay attention. You've got to really focus on what's been a good experience. What have been the behaviors of your best clients? Who can you deliver the most value to, or who are you delivering the most value to? You just have to really start paying attention to those, with the idea that at some point you're going to have to narrow your focus to a subset of those clients, probably 20% or less. And that is so true of the business that's out there that's grown to a certain level. Most of the folks that we work with, we get that have existing clients, we get them to list their clients by profitability. And it's not always the big client. It's the type of project, it's the type of problem you are solving. That typically is going to help define whether or not an engagement or a project or a customer at all is profitable. And then start looking at the ones that also refer business to you or today, because there's a really good chance that those most profitable clients that already refer, they're already having a good experience working with you. Find out all the characteristics that you can about those folks. Now, you mentioned this idea of who we shouldn't be working with. One of the beauties of doing this most profitable to least profitable kind of thinking is that it's probably going to reveal at least 20 to 25%, in my experience, of your clients are legacy clients, or people that you used to do that kind of work, but you don't really anymore, or they came to you on a slow Monday and you said yes to something. And those are folks that you need to start saying, you know what, even if we maybe take a client like that, we need to start messaging and building solutions for that top 20%, because it is so much easier if you have a client that loves you, that's already referring business to you, it is so much easier to do more with them than to go out and find more new people to build trust with. So after you find that top 20%, quite frankly, the way you really scale is with them. You start discovering what else you can do for them. So one of the filters that I like to use that I don't think is talked about enough in the whole persona conversation is that take a really good hard look at who you are providing or who you can provide the most value for the fastest, because that's going to be a group that quite often will be your most profitable client. That's going to be a group that I guarantee you is going to be singing your praises. And that's going to be a group that some percentage of would do 10 times more business with you if you discovered how to add even more value. And an even smaller percentage of that group might do 100 times more business with you if you could focus on figuring out what else they needed. So a lot of times we really underestimate the cost of chasing business that's not right for us, because that's kind of today's dollar saying yes. And so it's really tempting to chase that. But I think where we really underestimate is the opportunity cost that's involved in not growing and scaling with that ideal customer.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point, John. I'm actually curious. I think a hard part when people are dealing with legacy clients is they have deep relationships, they have deep connections. If you need to, quote unquote, fire a legacy client, what would you suggest as a script, or how would you actually begin to do this in a way that still preserves the integrity of the connection with them, but does what needs to be done in that circumstance?
I find ghosting is just the best way to go. I mean, just
you are such a millennial, John Jantsch. Oh my gosh.
Boy, I think maybe you're the first person that's ever called me that, but we'll roll with it. No, that is obviously hard. I mean, especially small business. You start out, your first 5 clients, hopefully some of them are your friends today, right? And so I think it really, everything in life comes down to open and honest communication. Where we get ourselves in trouble is like, oh, I'm afraid to have that hard conversation, so I'm just going to do lousy work for them for the next 6 months, right? And so, we've all done that, myself included, and that certainly gets us nowhere in any of our relationships, any of our life, certainly in business. So open and honest conversations. But I also think that if you truly do have their best interest in mind, if you're not the right solution anymore, you're doing them a disservice by taking their money or continuing to do work that is maybe mediocre because you don't have the time and energy or bandwidth to do it correctly. So the other thing that I commonly try to do is, can I find somebody else who's a better fit? So you Dorie, are probably one of the champion networkers that I know, and constantly having that bench, or whatever you want to call it, of developing resources of people that would be hungry for the kinds of business or really other ways that you might serve your clients. I think it's just a great marketing strategy, or I should say business strategy, as well as a way to kind of handle the specific problem that you talked about. Is you don't want to throw somebody overboard, but is there a way for you to actually get them a better solution? That I think is generally a win for everyone.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I just want to take a moment to greet some of the folks who are tuning in. If you're just joining us, please feel free to type your name into the chat box and let us know where you're dialing in from so we can say hi. Diane's here from Philadelphia. David's here from Indianapolis. This is great. We have Andre from Poland, and we have Connie from San Francisco Bay Area, and many more. Thank you for joining us. And please type your questions for John Jantsch into the chat box. John, of course, is the author of the new book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. He's also the author of the well-known small business marketing book, Duct Tape Marketing. So you may know him from that as well, but we're curious to hear what's on your mind. And John, one thing that I'm curious about, you have been working in this space for a long time. What would you say are the most common myths or misconceptions that many entrepreneurs or small business owners have about marketing? What are the things that are kind of circulating in people's heads that are, it's folk wisdom, or it's out of date, it's just not right, that needs to be corrected?
Well, I think there's a lot of people that over the last 5 years, have really offered this kind of 2 pieces of advice that I think are causing a lot of stress for a lot of small business owners. The first one is, you've got to be everywhere. You've got to be on every new platform, and you've got to, just dip your toe in the water of every new platform so that you don't get left behind. That's number one. And we can unpack, why that's a really bad piece of advice. And then the second one, of course, and I'm as guilty as anybody for, going on shows like this or standing on stages and saying things like content is king. And everybody kind of believed that. And so now consequently content has become air. It's really the only way to get in the game. And I think that what that's created is this giant dumping ground of content that really isn't serving anyone. We still have to have it in order to guide the customer journey. But I think where people make a mistake is content for content's sake is not really going to provide much value. Content that moves people or guides people through the stages of the customer journey, the behavior that they want to participate in with the companies and services and products that they buy, that's what we need to focus on. Content is the voice of strategy. And if we use it as such, then every piece of content we produce will have some value. Circling back to social media, the challenge is that, a lot of people just saw it as, oh, this is free way to get in front of a bunch of eyeballs. And so we all jumped in, build followings, posted stuff of, questionable value, reposted stuff of questionable value. And all of a sudden the platform said, let's make money off of these people because they're the product, they're not customers. And so now where we live today is in a state where the social media platforms have realized that to get the eyeballs, to get the comments, to get the clicks, which basically allows them to show us more ads, they have to actually focus on showing us the worst of us. And so I think that not only have most social media platforms become less useful, particularly for small businesses, because now we're competing with video producers and large brands and things on a lot of the social platforms. We're jumping into 10 platforms and giving none of them our due. Dorie, you've done a great job with LinkedIn, and it is. I'm not necessarily saying unilaterally all social media is terrible. I'm saying the way that we've chosen to use it and to skim the surface of making it a useful platform for the people who might want to follow us or customers is really what I think has led to it being less than useful. So my advice is find one, maybe two, dive in a way that is going to be useful to your customers or whoever follows you, and stop stressing out about trying to be everywhere and trying to respond to everything.
Yeah, it's certainly a Sisyphean task at a certain point. So that's
I love working with you, Dorie, because you use big words like Sisyphean. Wow, that's awesome.
Anything for you, my man. So we're here with John Jantsch. He's the author of The Ultimate Marketing Engine. You can learn more about him in his book right here, theultimatemarketingengine.com. And if you want to check out my work and make sure that you never miss one of our weekly Newsweek episodes, you can just sign up for a free self-assessment and join my newsletter list at DorieClark.com. You will get all the info that you need. And we also want to say hello to some of the great folks who are tuning in. Agnitsa is here from Scotland. We have Johanna from El Salvador, Michael from New York, Karen from Toronto. We're so glad to have all of you here. Please feel free to type your questions for John Jantsch into the chat box. We're talking about how to consistently grow your business. And John, something that I'm curious about. Now, you were alluding earlier to the customer journey. Can you go into that a little bit more? What do we mean by the customer journey? And why is this something that we as business owners or service providers should be focusing on or caring about?
You bet. So when I do presentations on this idea, I first start out by sharing all the statistics about the ways in which marketing has changed and why we're so funnel and tactic obsessed, because let's face it, there's a lot of things a lot of balls we've got to juggle, a lot of things we've got to do. But I think that what is lost in all this talk about change is that the thing that's changed the most in marketing, at least in my time, is the way people choose or can choose now to become customers. And that in many instances, people make a decision to buy or not to buy from us without our knowledge that they're even looking or that they are even trying to solve a problem. And so today, I think that marketing is less about this kind of demand creation that everybody talks about. It's more about organizing the behavior, less about us getting them to do what we want them to do, and us about helping or guiding them to participate in the way that they want to participate. So about a decade or more ago, I created something I call the Marketing Hourglass. And it was really kind of my answer to this idea of the marketing funnel. Obsession. If you think about the metaphor of the hourglass, I mean, it starts with a funnel. There is nothing wrong inherently with the idea that we do have to get somebody out there to know that we exist, and some smaller percentage to realize that, yeah, we're an ideal fit for them. But for so many marketers, that's where it ends. It's like, nailed it, got them to buy, and that's the end of marketing. And I think that that's actually the greatest opportunity at that point. And so I take the funnel and I flip it upside down to form the hourglass shape, and to really focus this idea on creating a better customer experience, on retention, on referrals, and creating evangelists. Because I think the greatest source of business for many small businesses is actually happy customers. And yet we go out there, chasing that new click or that new opportunity. So in my journey, we actually have 7 stages, and they are know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And the idea behind those is that if we focus all of our attention on creating an intentional experience, on answering the questions and the objectives that people have at each of those stages, we are going to ultimately create customers for life, or at least I think that's the opportunity. And frankly, that ought to be the goal for every one of us.
Yeah, I really agree with that, John. Thank you. And Diane has a great comment. She says that she really appreciates the advice about the challenges of a smaller business competing on social media. She personally thinks that email marketing is a more useful way to engage with her ideal clients. That is something that I definitely agree with and preach as well. I'm curious, John, what are your thoughts about email marketing and how to do that effectively?
Diana, before I answer your question, I can't get past the face painting.
He's
That
pretty
was part of
good.
it. Pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that brings up a great point. I mean, a lot of times, especially small businesses, we've got limited resources, limited time, and we can't do everything. And so it really comes down to a matter of priorities. That's why, a lot of times I will tell business owners who their ideal client's not looking for a plumber on Facebook necessarily. For example, there might be 5 other things that would be a much higher priority, a much better use of your limited time and resources. And so don't feel any guilt about not participating in Instagram or TikTok. For example, if, as you said, email marketing, producing content, holding webinars that really provide useful content to folks. I mean, maybe even doing, live video like we're doing today. I mean, I'm not necessarily suggesting that for everyone. I'm just saying, really take a look at the 20 places you could actually access and guide a customer journey, and narrow it down to the ones that you believe are going to help people move through that journey the most, the ones that you enjoy doing. That's another thing with social media. I mean, I talked to a lot of small business owners who hate social media. This is not, I'm not making a political statement about whether you should or shouldn't there, but if there are other ways that you could actually use your time, maybe networking is far more enjoyable for you in real life, then why do something that's maybe producing limited results and you don't enjoy doing? Focus on the stuff you enjoy doing, and you're probably going to get better results.
That's so great. Thank you. And just a shout out to Diane, who apparently was a professional face painter pre-COVID. This is a fascinating world, and I love it that there were professional face painters pre-COVID, and I love it that you have evolved and pivoted, Diane. So congrats on that, and thank you for tuning in. That is fantastic. So, John, one question that comes to mind now. I have certainly found in my coaching work and my consulting work, everybody is always looking for a magic bullet. Yep. And magic bullets really generally don't exist. It's usually lots of little things together. But if you had to identify 1 or 2 things that you feel like are kind of low-hanging fruits that most small business owners or entrepreneurs are not doing enough of, sure, that they probably just could get a little bit more bang from their buck from doing, what would those things be?
Well, so you've just actually tapped into the title of my next book, which is called The Short Game. And Sorry. You told me there's no magic bullet, and then you asked me to identify a magic bullet. So
pretty much, we're just, what can I say? What can I say?
So here I go. Here's the advice I give to every single person that hears me talk for 2 hours and talk about how it's a long-term game and you have to invest and do all this, who then come up to me and say, yeah, but just give me the one thing I should be doing. And here's the answer I give every single one of them. Most businesses could grow their business rapidly or build momentum by, in addition to going out and getting clients, finding non-competing businesses who also have your ideal customer in mind, finding a way to serve those people, to add value to those people, because it's great when you've got customers. It's great when those customers are referring you, but maybe 3 or 4 people who they're going to refer in a year. The right strategic partners might be a steady flow, might be hundreds of people that they can introduce you to. Every single business out there should develop a network of these non-competing businesses who also serve your ideal customer in a way that the way to think about this is that if you went to your ideal customer and thought about what else do they need that I don't provide, those are all the potential strategic partners that you should be searching for ways to engage them, and not just as a referral source, but truly as a way to bring value to their life. If you've produced some great content, if you've got some great tips, if you've got great videos, if you've got a great webinar that you could do that would bring value to their customers, present that idea to them and start partnering with folks like that. And you will find that the referral tap pretty much turns on flood.
I love that. And I think that's great advice, John. Thank you very much for that. We just want to give a special shout out. Talk about persistence and dedication. Our friend Carlos is tuning in from the hospital.
Oh my.
Carlos, we're cheering for a speedy recovery for you. And thank you for being here, my man. We appreciate the dedication to watching every week on Newsweek's Better interview show. So thank you for that. And again, we are tuning in with John Jantsch. He's the author of this book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine. We will wave it one more time. Congrats, John Jantsch. And we're so glad to have you here. John, the last question that I have for you, now the subtitle here of your book is 5 Steps to Ridiculously Consistent Growth. And you've talked about a lot of these concepts in general, but I'm wondering if as we close, you might be willing to just run through them briefly so we can get kind of an overview of some of the key points.
Yeah. Can you tell a marketer wrote that subtitle? So the first one is, and I really, we could do a whole show on this, map where your best customers are today and where they want to go. This idea of creating a customer success track. We end up working with a lot of customers that are in certain stage of their business or life, certain characteristics, certain challenges. And we know that if we can solve those challenges, the promise that will deliver. So what I have done over the years and what I present in this book is I think that one of the greatest ways to grow your business is to then figure out what's next for them. And next, and next. What are the ways that you could actually build those stages based on taking them from where they are today to where they want to go? So that's number one. The second step is you've got to figure out the real problem that you solve and promise to solve that. I sell marketing strategy. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to go get some marketing strategy today. But they do wake up and say, how come when the phone rings, somebody wants a lower price? How come when I look at Google, my competitors are ahead of me? Those are the problems that happen to actually be solved by strategy. But unless I can first communicate that I understand, I get them, I understand what they're going through, they won't give me the chance to link my solution to solving their problem. Number 3, we talked about a lot today, and that is the idea of narrowing your focus to the top 20% of your current ideal customers. And this is one that just over the years, I mean, the Pareto principle is cliche, but over the years, I've worked with so many businesses that 80% of their profit and their business comes from a handful of their top customers. And yet we're offering 27 services to anybody who says they need what we do. So I think one of the greatest opportunities is to then say, okay, not only do we want to go out and get more of the people that look like that, we also want to figure out how we can do more business with that top customer. They're always going to be your best referral sources too, by the way. So the fourth one is to attract. So I get to, I think it's chapter 8, and I talk about your website being the hub of your business. And I guarantee you the 2-star reviews that I get on Amazon are going to say, this book's not even about marketing. He doesn't even talk about my website till the 8th chapter. We have to do all of this strategy work ahead of time so that those tools that we all use today, content, websites, email marketing, even social media, are actually providing an effective way for people to guide people down the customer journey based on the story they're already telling themselves, not on the story we want to tell about ourselves. And then the 5th one is to scale with your customers by serving their entire ecosystem. And so what I'm talking about there is really referrals. We alluded to the strategic partner network. We alluded to the fact that there's more to do with your existing customers. That is really where, if you can do the first 4 steps, number 5 is really the practical guarantee of ridiculously consistent growth.
Is so valuable. I think that's what every business owner wants, is ridiculously consistent growth. Right. Again, we're here with John Jantsch. Check out his book and learn more at theultimatemarketingengine.com. You can also check out my new book too. It's called The Long Game. And despite asking questions to John about playing the short game, I believe in the long game, and ultimately marketing is the long game. So John Jantsch, thank you for being here, and thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern for Better. Thanks.